everybody, and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. Yeah! All right. Well, we are trying to just tear through games here, and we are actually, our queue is shrinking somewhat. It's always a very long queue of games, but it's shrinking somewhat, and that's because Essen is only a couple weeks away, which is going to probably just expand as I went through my want list of games from Essen, and I thought I'm going to be very strict this year. I'm going to cut out anything that doesn't look even remotely interesting, and it's still quite a lengthy list. So that's coming up. Because of me traveling a little bit this weekend and such, there's not going to be a live Q&A today, but there was just one Saturday, so we will have that a little bit later on in the week, and if possible, I'll have a live Q&A with Sam and Z scheduled later on this week also, so you can see that sort of thing. So really, there's just a pile of things. If you missed it last week, we did some live playthroughs. We did Cry Havoc and Mechs vs. Minions, which is kind of the big of the week. Speaking of the big of the week, let's get into the news. So obviously the big news of the week is Riot Games and their announcement on Monday, which they did simultaneously across many videocasts, including our own, with reviews, a playthrough with Rodney, of Mechs vs. Minions. Riot Games is the maker of League of Legends, which is one of the, well, probably the largest computer game in the world. Huge amount of fans. But this board game, Mechs vs. Minions, is actually, while it's based in that universe, is not a MOBA-style game. Instead, this is a cooperative programming-style game. It is enormous box. It's going to go on sale on October 13th for $75 plus shipping, which for what you get in this game is phenomenally inexpensive, and that's because they are shipping it themselves from their website. There is a lot of cool pieces. It's just a really neat game. We did a review this past week and a playthrough of the game. Also, Renegade Games has announced that Lanterns, Emperor's Gifts, is an expansion for Lanterns, will be available at retail stores. If they sign up for a program, they can have 12 copies early this last couple months of this year before the game's wide release Q1. So stores have a chance to have an early copy of it. Google has designed a deck of cards. I normally don't care, but I wanted to comment on this. Instead of the numbers or, you know, King, Queen, Joker type thing of the cards, instead they put like the phrase in the card. So you can see in the picture, Heath Ledger from Batman was the Joker, so that card's a Joker. Some card might say, you know, the number of death in China would be 4, so you know that 4, this is the 4 of hearts. That's clever, right? And totally useless as any kind of gaming thing. I mean, unless you're playing some Ono 99 style game. For the most part, if you're playing hearts and spades, I don't have to sit there for the longest time and try to, you know, sort my cards out by the trivia fact on the card. This seems like a very idiotic idea. Fantasy Flight has announced some new ships for Star Wars, the U-Wing and the TIE Striker, that both look really cool and both show me how in touch I am with the Star Wars universe since I've read a lot of the books. I have watched all the movies, and I still don't know what all these ships are doing. Maybe it has the cartoons, I don't know. They've also announced an Arkham Horror card game expansion, which is not a surprise, but at the same time, the game isn't even out yet. But, I mean, what do we expect? Fantasy Flight, now that they've broken up with Games Workshop, is definitely going to be working on their licenses, which is definitely Star Wars, Cthulhu, their Terranoth universe, Game of Thrones. And you probably won't see a lot of other stuff from them. I hope so, but who knows. We're going to see a new expansion for Deus, which is a pretty cool game. This one is set in ancient Egypt, this expansion. It has a lot more cards. In fact, it looks like it has as many cards as the base game does. And that's exciting because the whole cool factor of Deus was the different card combinations that you would make. The Toy Hall of Fame has announced their nominees for this year, which includes some board games. Clue, Dungeons & Dragons, Uno, and Pinball, if you consider Pinball a game. Now, I don't really understand the Toy Hall of Fame, because this is what they do. They announce a slate of nominees each year that range from modern stuff to stuff that's not even a game. For example, this year they picked Bubble Wrap. Really? I mean, my kids like to play with Bubble Wrap, but it's not a toy. How? Anyhow. So they pick all these things, and then they pick 3 of them that join the Toy Hall of Fame, and then the rest seemingly go away forever and don't make it? That's really odd to me. I mean, what they got this year? I think there's Care Bears this year, and there's all these things. And they all seem really worthy choices, and I can see that if they don't make it to the Toy Hall of Fame, that then, they come back next year, but that doesn't seem to be the fact. Also, the Toy Hall of Fame has the box and the stick in it. Come on now, anything can be a toy. A chair can be a toy. But we're talking... Okay, anyway. Let's see. Portal has announced a list of Robinson Crusoe changes for the new version that's coming out Essen, and you can also have an upgrade pack, so that's great. The biggest thing that people want from the upgrade pack is the new rulebook, since the old rulebook was very difficult to discern. And R&R has announced a few other games. I believe these are being released at Essen. That's Toria and Coin Quest. So both of those look very fascinating. And really, if I went over all the games that were being announced at Essen, there would just be a whole ton of them. All right, well, that's enough of the regular news. Let's keep going.
Happy breakfast, everybody. From donuts to druids, this week was pretty rough on my wallet because I think it's the first roundup that I can say I'm backing every project I'm talking about today. So let's take a look at what caught my eye. Go Nuts for Donuts has players trying to collect donuts through hidden selection. So there's that great outguessing your opponent's element to the game. A row of treats is laid out and players use their bidding cards to select the donut they want. If they're the only one who opts for that treat, they get it. There is a huge variety of donut cards. Some provide points, others give you special actions, and still others give you endgame scoring bonuses based on your donut collection. The art is delightful, the theme is accessible, and the quick gameplay and wide player count make this a great game to have on hand as an opener or filler for just about any group. You can get a copy of Go Nuts for Donuts for just $16 plus shipping. In a very different donut-themed game, Donut Drive-Thru is the 7th game in the Grail Games small box line. Similar to a few other games they've published, this may look vaguely familiar because it's a reskin and worldwide release of a game from Japan. To go with the updated theme, Grail brought on versatile artist Heiko Gunter, who amped the cute level up to 11. Donut Drive-Thru is an action selection game in which you'll gather recipes, prepare, and serve them. You'll use your 2 donut tokens to take actions, and the prepare and serve are based on die rolls. The game has a couple of roll mitigation helpers, and it's quick, with the person who has 5 completed recipes ending the game. There are also optional roll cards that you can add that provide each player with a special ability. You can get a copy of Donut Drive-Thru for a pledge of 22 Australian dollars, which is about $17 in the US. Sagrada is a gorgeous dice drafting, window crafting game from Floodgate Games. Dice represent glass pieces that you draft and place in your windows, and the essential rule of the game is that no die can be placed adjacent to a die that shares its color or number. Tool cards help you mitigate dice values by providing things like rerolls, the ability to move dice, or flipping dice, but tool use is restricted based on your limited favor tokens. Scoring is based on meeting the randomized public objectives, and each player has a private objective that scores endgame points as well. Sagrada comes with 90 translucent dice and is a replayable puzzly game that you can get for a pledge of $35 plus shipping. Mars 445 is a game about building a colony on Mars. This is a simultaneous play, speed, multiplayer solitaire from TGIK Games, and it features fabulous retro-modern art from Jason Washburn. Players are collecting parts to build colony modules by simultaneously playing to a simple communal solitaire tableau in the center. Meanwhile, they're managing their personal deck in a warehouse zone in front of them with a different game of solitaire going on. The first person to complete a colony ends the game, but the scoring is intricate and based on not only the launch cards you manage to collect, but also on elements like how many opponents' cards are in your collected pile. Mars 445 comes with decks that will allow you to play up to 4 players, but it can scale up to 8 or more based on how many sets of the game you own. A single set of Mars 445 takes a pledge of $20 plus shipping. And last but not least, from the designer of Cry Havoc comes a lovely 2-player abstract game called Druids. Players will be moving their 3 druids on the board to try and capture the opponent's druids or to move a stone into the opponent's temple. Animal stones on the board provide different abilities, and the terrain tiles impact movement. For example, a forest tile will protect a druid from capture while the clouds will teleport a druid. Spaces on the board allow players to move terrain tiles, and overall the game plays very quickly. Like the best abstract games, Druids has simple rules but a ton of strategy and depth. Druids features beautiful laser-etched wood pieces and board, and the card art is illustrated by the fabulously talented John Ariosa. Please note that this is a really small print run, and it's not really planned for wider release in the future, so if you'd like to pick up a copy of Druids, you'll want to pledge the $50 pretty quickly. Okay, that's all I've got for you this episode. Hopefully something caught your eye too, so I'm not alone over here. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.
Open the Box Games, and welcome to Component Moments. And today we're going to take a look at Myth by Ludic Creations. So let's open the box. It comes with a rulebook, a metal cheese, a dragon meeple, little mice meeples, really big cards. How are these mice even supposed to hold these? Player reference cards. Time to tell you a story with this pop-up board. The peaceful kingdom of Myth is suddenly raided by the evil red dragon and his monster companions. The red dragon has taken away the golden sacred cheese, the symbol of the kingdom's prosperity and unity. The fate of the kingdom is in peril. The brave young heroes of Myth must now set out on a desperate journey to the dragon's castle to recover the sacred cheese. I think we can defeat this dragon together. Off with his feet! But first, let's finish our breakfast. See you next time. Bye!
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And today we have a question from Rizzo. That's the worst thing I could do.
We got a grease moment in.
Sorry. Rizzo has a question about Magic the Gathering. Is Magic the Gathering the reason board gaming became popular, or one of the reasons, and if not, what is? And, well, what do you think?
Well, I was around when Magic came out. That was when I was in college. And
I think a lot of people are okay.
No, I mean, I was buying Magic, and Magic came out, and it kind of turned people away from what was, at the time, Avalon Hill was a big company. Mayfair, their old games were big, and there was very few companies. But then Magic kind of got people into, I guess, playing card games. But I think really it was about a year after Magic, when Settlers of Catan came out, that I think it changed the vibe of board gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people that there's several main things that got board gaming going. One, of course, is Settlers of Catan, like he mentioned. One is Dungeons and Dragons, actually. One is Magic the Gathering, and one is the Internet. The Internet made a huge change. It used to find players used to be much more difficult. But I'm going to say yes on Magic the Gathering. Now, not directly, right, but indirectly, Magic the Gathering is responsible for thousands of stores existing. All right, thousands of game stores would not even exist without Magic being there. Before Magic came out, games were like part of a comic book store. Mm-hmm. And if Magic hadn't come out, most comic book stores today would be gone. Where would we be gaming? Now, granted, the game store may be on its way out here in the sunset at this point too, but Magic the Gathering did that. But Magic the Gathering also brought a whole lot of people to play fairly complex game. I mean, Magic was not that simple of a game. To play that game, and I can't tell you how many board gamers I know who are ex-Magic players.
Yeah.
Or even might still play Magic. If I meet someone who plays Magic, I know they can play all these games. So I think Magic the Gathering was really good for the hobby.
I do too. I mean, I remember, like I said, I played it in college, and our store, they were the ones who got in Settlers of Catan and said, you have to check out this new game. It's called Settlers of Catan. They didn't understand enough to...
Can you say Catan?
And they pull it out, and then we played that, and we were like, ooh, what's this? And wow. And then we got into a whole new world. But yeah, if I hadn't been going to the Magic store, I might have not heard of Settlers, and things might have been different.
So anyway, I know some people think Magic is anathema. I do not think so. I think it was an excellent thing for the hobby, and still is to this day. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
The world is ending and all I can think about is abominations destroying our doors. Found a boomstick, it needs ammunition, baby. Let's destroy the zombies before they start to hoard. There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. It's freaking zombicide. Multiplying, the zombies are coming, baby. I hear them moaning from their hungry jaws. They got the numbers, we got the equipment, baby. Talking about machetes and some battle chainsaws. Nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. It's freaking zombicide. There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. It's freaking zombicide.
Hey, welcome to the 101. I promised you tanks last week. Well, we're going to look at tanks and a whole bunch of other stuff here at Huracan 2016 in Orlando. Let's go take a look.
Here's some of the stuff that we'll be covering over the next couple of weeks on the 101. We'll be painting German tanks from Flames of War, which are basically the same game as tanks that you can get at Cool Stuff at a reasonable price. These tanks are nice and cheap and just comes in with very simple rules and a lot of fun. We've got the German tanks right there. We've got Russian tanks on the other side here. And we'll be covering how to paint these really, really quick so you can really get up and going. Then your only hard part is putting the terrain on the table, which even that's not that hard. As you can see, just a very simple setup and just a lot of fun. And always just a wonderful, wonderful game to play. And here's some units for it. Just another great day at Huracan.
So there you have it, a look at Huracan 2016. What a wonderful display of miniatures and everything this year. Just another great job by everybody and a great time. So until next time, I'm Rob Warren, and we'll see you soon.
Now last week, Derek Porter, who's my video editor, his wife got sick and had to go to the hospital. Now she's fine now, but some of the videos that we had got delayed, so you'll see some of the ones that were supposed to go up last week go up this week. We also have Chaz will finish his top 100 games of all time this week. We're going to do a lot of Essen preview videos this week, so look for those. We'll talk about some things we're looking forward to from Essen. We have, I'll be taking a look at Galactic Rebellion, Daedalus, Sentence, the Harry Potter deck building game, a new version of Winter Circles, Theomachy, so there's a lot of stuff going on. And also we'll be posting a live show. That's on the Dice Tower. We did a live show up in Connecticut. And so there's just lots of different things going on this week. But you can find all that and a lot of other great stuff from our network. There's a lot of shows in the Dice Tower Network. There's a lot of great podcasts. Really, you could listen to stuff all week long from it. And you can find all that at dicetower.com.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, continuing this conversation that we've been having about errors in board game packaging and documentation, the impact that it can have on the user experience, and what, if anything, can be done to prevent these types of issues from happening in the first place? Well, so far, we've discussed several typographical and grammatical errors that found their way into several recent games, and just why these particular types of issues are so detrimental to a board game product. So, where did these issues even come from? Michigan? I bet it's Michigan. It's not Michigan? It's not Michigan. Unless it is, it isn't. No, instead, barring gross negligence, I think that there are two primary causes of these documentation disasters. The first potential pitfall is translation. One of the things that's great about this hobby is that we have games that are developed and shared from all over the planet, including Michigan. But the downside is that these small companies, sometimes as small as a single employee, must manage the translation of content into other languages. Now, this can lead to working with translators who aren't dealing with their native language, even potentially translating content from their second language into their third. The combination of the differences in sentence structure from one language to the next, coupled with the technical information that you're trying to convey in a rulebook, can result in some really awkward documentation. But even if working in your native tongue, there's nothing that's going to save you from the inevitable problems caused by the other potential problem, last-minute changes before going to production. The amount of components and documentation and cards seems to make the board game industry just plagued by this particular problem. Even something as seemingly innocuous as changing the name of a computer file can have a ripple effect, breaking links to images that are used in documents, causing fonts to go missing and either change to a different typeface or just make a whole block of text disappear altogether, or other technical issues like Garving-Chanal-ism. These issues are so common. Is it even going to be possible to completely prevent them? Is that even a realistic goal? Well, next time, we'll take a look at what another industry did to prevent itself from making million-dollar mistakes. And we'll see if that's an example that the board game industry can learn from. We'll pick up there next time.
Welcome to another episode of Board Gaming with Colleagues with To Die For Games. Today we're going to be taking a look at Codename Pictures.
Today you have a mission, should you choose to accept it. And that mission will take place over
lunchtime!
So Codename Pictures is a game designed by Vasel, published by CGE Games, plays in about 15 minutes for ages 10 and up, and 2 to 8 players.
Notice there's some changes there.
Codename Pictures adds, basically you can mix it with the original Codenames, which was word-based. In this case, all of the cards have images on them. Something that's a little bit different in this one is that you can actually use the word of the image. If it's a bumblebee, you can actually say bumblebee, and that's a valid clue to give your teammates.
I like this one because I'm a big fan of Dixit. I'm also a very visual person, so the art appeals to me a little more than just words, but it's actually trickier. I was surprised by how tricky trying to find a common word that can be obvious, but how does that apply to more than one image?
Yes, so I did find it takes a bit more time, hence the reason why they've shortened the amount. I think it's a 5x4 grid versus 5x5, so you have a little bit less, but yeah, I find it does take the brain a little bit longer to kind of figure out clues that will work for several cards. Also, something was really cool, they came up with a 2-player variant, which I don't think was in the original. So this is something new they've introduced, so bonus. So overall, I like this game. I thought it was really fun.
I do, and honestly, there's like a Jason Statham-y looking spy. It's hilarious. I love that they kind of created some of the spies to look like.
So I think those were special ones we got at Gen Con.
They were.
Because they had like the celebrity-looking ones, like Will Smith.
It was neat.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah, I enjoy this game as well. I felt it was a little bit more difficult than the original Codenames, for sure. It didn't really break new ground in that it's the same game. If you've played Codenames, you'll know how to play this right away. But definitely finding clues to give for those images was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get back to another few rounds before we get back to work. So
Complete our mission.
Exactly. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Now, a few weeks ago, me, Sam, and Z, we talked about hype, right? And then hype happened this week. On Monday, simultaneously, on my channel, and the Secret Cabal started doing videos, and on their podcast, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and Rodney Smith, there was a lot of talk about mechs versus minions. They had several reviewers do it, and some people were like, what is this? And I had given some teasers up to it saying, hey, you know, something, I'm going to show you an amazing game. And I always have to be careful about this, talking about an amazing game, because when it comes out, people are like, well, that did not blow my mind. It did not change gaming as we saw it. Well, I wasn't really claiming that. I think the thing is phenomenal. And it is a really, really fun game. But there were some people who were talking about the simultaneous release and now Riot Games, which is a gigantic company, how it will affect the industry. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. As I said in the review we did of this game, Riot Games flew me out last year as a consultant on the game. And I can't go over everything that we talked about or did in that regard, but when they contacted me, I didn't know who they were. I know they're this gigantic company that makes League of Legends, but I'm just not really versed in the computer scene. You only have so much room in your brain for things, right? And I know a lot about board games, but at the cost of not knowing a lot about other things. So when I went out to California and went to their headquarters, and I was walking there from my hotel, and I got there, and I was just mind-boggled at just how big it was. It was like a campus. And I realized that this Riot Games company was bigger than pretty much the entire board game industry combined. And in fact, they had a group of fans there of board games that was bigger than most game clubs in the world. I mean, they have like their own game club there, board game club. And as I walked through the building, there's board games all over the place. I mean, there's all their other technology and stuff. And walking in was like this world-class thing. Very impressive. But that was just a really kind of a mind-blowing visual aspect showing the difference between where the video game industry is and where the board game industry is. I don't mind that there's that difference, but still it was kind of eye-opening to see. So I consulted with them, talked about their game, blah, blah, blah. When they, at Gen Con this year, they came and said, would you like to review it? And I was like, yes, because I was already excited about it when I had seen it back then. They had made it even better. And so I was, again, you can watch our review and our playthrough. I really did enjoy the game. Now, what they're doing, though, is different than what other board game companies are doing. They're selling it directly. And they're selling it from their website. It's going to go on sale October 13th. And I'm going to go on record now, and I think it will sell it in a day. Because just the board game buzz is really high. And they are also, there's League of Legends. And if just a tiny fraction of the people who play League of Legends buy this board game, it will sell out very quickly. But the thing that has people surprised about this is the fact that the component quality is amazing in this game, and it's only $75. We've been talking over as years go by on how expensive these games are. The new Ticket to Ride, I believe, is $80. Mansions of Madness, you know, the different games from Fantasy Fighting, Cool Mini or Not, have a pretty high price tag on them. And we say, well, that's just, and I've always said, it's just inflation. These games are expensive. They are essentially toys and luxuries. We don't need to have them. But they're a high price, so you have to kind of pick and choose which ones are the best. This one is pretty inexpensive for what it is. So is this an industry-changing thing? Well, no, but also yes. No, because, first of all, the other companies can't pull this off. The reason the price is low, and you can listen to an excellent interview where they talk about this on Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and the Secret Cabal also mentioned it too. There's an interview there. They talk about they're keeping this down because they're cutting out the middlemen. They're not going through distributors. They're not going through stores. So they're selling direct. And it's like, wow, well, what if more companies did that? Well, if more companies did that, I think we would run into a problem. See, the deal here is some very small companies put their cards out. Tim Fowers does it, for example, with his. He just sells directly. He doesn't go through a distributor. And a company like Riot can do it because they already have the infrastructure. But for most companies, they simply don't have it. To ship things directly would add all sorts of confusion and problems. Also, if you ship things directly, then the stores start having a problem because they have no product. And then you're losing an audience that stores will provide. Even if the audience is coming, I know a lot of audience comes online and such, It's so you really, most companies aren't going to be able to follow suit on this. I also don't think Riot is suddenly saying, we are now going to be a board game company. From talking to them and just, feeling them out, I wouldn't be surprised if they have other board games come down the line, but it's not like this is the first in 16 games that come out next year. Most companies are releasing a pile of games every year. Riot has put out one. So I don't think this is going to change the industry in that way, where all of a sudden all the other companies are following suit, you're going to see prices drop. And no, I think the industry is going to stay the way it is. But this is certainly something that people are going to look at and use as a focal point. Where I think this will change the industry is I think this is going to do as much as tabletop, Will Wheaton's show, did, in the fact that it's going to bring and introduce another audience to board gaming. And this I'm really excited about. I'm really excited. There's 100 million people who play League of Legends. If just 1% of those people think about playing board games, that's another million people who are just thinking about it. And if a small percentage of them, let's say 1% of that million, that's 10,000 new board gamers, becomes a board game. So 1% of 1%, I would be incredibly happy. And my hope is that it will be more than that. And I think that's really cool. It's interesting to see the video gamers, when they announce this on the League of Legends, the video gamers are like, wow, this game's so overpriced. You have to pay $75 for this, because they're used to microtransactions and things. Most of them probably spend way more than that on a video game, but they do it a little bit at a time. So this is kind of eye-opening for them, while board gamers are going, this is an amazing price. So I am excited about this. I think it's interesting about the press release too, where they timed the press release to go off on Monday. They asked all of us to wait till 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, and most everybody did, and posting all the things. And so there was just like, and everyone's like, wow, are all the other companies going to do that? Well, they could, right? All the companies could email me and say, here's the game, and we want you to wait till after this date to talk about it. And some companies actually do that now. So why don't you see this burst? Well, first of all, this was a game. And so a lot of reviewers and people were excited. Yeah, sure. But for most games, they're not going to have that same punch. So let's say, for example, Fantasy Flight sent me a whole pile of games and said, here's the dates you can do the reviews in each one. Of course I would follow that. I'm not going to mess with a company. If they ask me to wait till after a certain date, I will. But it may not even go up on that date. They might say, get this done on October 1st. I'm like, oh, I'll have it done after October 1st, but it might not go up to October 15th. It would depend on how hot the game is, because as these games come in, and I have this gigantic pile of games, there's no way I could get them all out on these different dates. The big mega ones, maybe. And you might see this happen with big mega games in the future. But like if some guy sends me a card game and says, the September 15th is the date that this goes live. Have it, done by that date. I would say, I will wait till September 15th, but I can't promise that it goes up on that date, because pretty soon then other people will be making our schedule for us. So we, of course, would honor any date and wait till that date or after. We just might not have it up on that specific date. A big giant game, let's say Cool Mini or Not says, here's some mega game. We might say, okay, yeah, we'll do it for that game. So I don't think that these press release dates are bad for the industry, and they would work if a company sent it out ahead of time too. You can't send it out a week ahead of time. What Maximilian said, we got it at Gen Con, and then we had over a month to mess with the game, to get it done before it came out. So will that change in the industry? I think it will change in a minor fashion, but I don't think we'll see that massively change. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the future things will change. Maybe the Riot Games entering, maybe we'll see other companies. But remember, Riot Games had some board gamers get involved in this. These guys, they flew me in, they flew in Quinn's from Shut Up and Sit Down. They talked to board gamers. They're diehard board gamers, and you can tell that in their game. Not every computer game company is going to do that. Just take a look at Mega Man, the board game that came out from Jasco Games. That game is just not very good. And most games are going to be like that. So I don't think it's going to shake up the industry, but I'm really glad that this one got it right. Anyway, what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. Let's keep going.
Hi guys. In the Netherlands, the third Tuesday of September is a day filled with tradition. It is called Prinsjesdag, and on this Little Princess Day, our King Willem-Alexander makes his way to the Hall of Knights, where he will address the nation in his speech from the throne. Now, we have seen our king on a bike, flying a chopper, in a boat, running, skating, but for this day he uses his golden coach, as kings do. But because his golden coach is in the shop since 2015, until the restoration is done, which will be around 2019, he uses this glass coach. This week I'm playing a game in which players move through the Swiss Alps in fantastical contraptions, trying to be the first one to reach the finish line. This week I am playing Steampunk Rally. In Steampunk Rally, each player starts off with his own inventor and some basic machine parts. Then a drafting phase starts where you get 4 cards, and those cards are either more machine parts, some machine parts you can trade off for dice or cogs, and you get some boost cards that you can use later on. After a phase in which you use the cogs, the race phase starts. Players activate the different parts of their machine, and mostly they will use dice to fuel them. Sometimes the rewards are more dice or more cogs, but mostly you will want to move. After the race phase, there is the damage phase. And if you took too much damage, you might lose some of your machine parts or just blow up. The dice you have used will remain in your machine, clogging it up. And the only way to get rid of them is with those cogs. But you do that in the next round. You continue on playing those different rounds until some inventor crosses the finish line and wins Steampunk Rally. Because all players do their actions simultaneously, even with a larger number of people, you can really enjoy this game. It's engaging and fun. With the different machine parts and the different starting inventors, the replayability is great and I can happily recommend it. Steampunk Rally. Thanks for watching.
Hey there, my name is Niels from Cyril's Brettspiele, and today in the best and the worst I'm talking about Lifted Deluxe from US Apology. And yeah, let's take a look what I like it, what's not, right? My favorite part on Lifted is this super innovative dexterity nonsense. I have never seen a game before where you have to lift with a crane on your forehead some building materials and bring it in here and stack it. That is super innovative. Again, I have never seen that before, and this is outstanding. This is cool. This is fun. This is great. However, I mean, honestly, first of all, it looks a little bit stupid, but I don't care about that on a real good, fun evening. But the downside on that game for me is definitely this the headband is a little bit wobbly. So if you don't close it very tight, it's really, really, really hard to keep that on your forehead the whole evening, or even at least 20, 30, 40 minutes. Obviously, you can take it off every single time if you want, but that's not the purpose of the game, in my opinion. The purpose of the game is to have it on your hand for a couple of minutes, and that is with this headband. Whoa, okay, it could be better. However, great innovation. That was my personal favorite on Lifted Deluxe, and see you next time in the best and the worst. My name is Niels, Cyril's Brettspiele. Bye-bye.
So today we're going to take a look at some upgrades for the game at Targi. This game here comes with, Targi's a great two-player game, first of all. Amazing game. Definitely play it if you can. And it comes with some nice components here. They're all basically just different counters, but Meeple Source has a whole pile of things that replace them. So you can see here I got these bags, which are going to take the place of these tokens here. These have a nice look to them, don't get me wrong, but this little bag, that's pretty cool. And I have these tokens here, which are replaced by the little wooden ones here. And again, these just have a nicer feel to them. This is not an upgrade that's like necessary. I mean, these are fine. It's not like these are killing the game. But once you fill these in the box, you're going to be like, wow, why was I playing with those tiles? These look nicer. At least that's the way I think. And Targi is a nice, cool two-player game, so it's definitely worth upgrading for me. We're also taking a look here at the Dragon's Horde box. This here is from Paladin's Quest Games, and inside this box there's different compartments. Now you can customize these compartments, and each compartment comes out So you can put different bits of games in here. So this is a way to store and carry multiple games. Now this is obviously a very crowded category. There are multiple people doing this at this point in time. So what does this one do differently? Well, this one has these nice boxes, and these are actually pretty nice. They're, they're cardboard like a game box, but you can fit them in here and pick the configuration you want. They also have these rubber banded card things. These aren't that complex, but what they're made for is, like, let's say you're playing Dominion or another deck building game. You basically can put some cards in these and then rubber band around the outside here, and it's a way to keep a very specific set of cards, and you can put those in here and keep all your cards in packs of cards. The game also comes with a secret compartment. Where is it? Well, it took me a while actually to find a secret compartment. It's actually in the lid. In the lid itself, you can see here, there's a little ribbon, and you can open it, and here is a place to put boards. So you put the boards for the games in here, and you put the rest of the pieces in here. Now, I don't know how often I would use something like this. I don't think I would use it all the time or much at all, because I actually don't mind carrying games around in their boxes. But if I needed to carry a whole pile of games, maybe 3 or 4, I think would fit in here easily. Or maybe you're looking for some deck building storage. This might be a good solution for that.
Hi, welcome to Good Game, Better Gamers. And this week I am up to my final 2 games on my 10 by 10 challenge that I have been playing through 10 times for the purposes of just trying to understand board games better. First up is Philip Kiet's, I think I've said his name right, Small World. It's a wonderful area control game where you have factions and you have abilities, and factions and abilities are separate, but when you play them you just link them up, and so the same faction may not ever have the same ability again, or it may, who knows. That's the randomness of the game. So the genius of this is that throughout the whole time you're having to problem solve regularly and trying to think of what's the best combination to try and get out of the selection there. It's wonderful area control. Now, Small World is only my second favourite area control game next to my favourite area control game, which is Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle by Anita Gupta and Jason Matthews has a huge following online. In fact, there are whole websites dedicated to the strategy and playthrough of this game. The game takes about 3 hours. It's not as long as some war simulations, but it's certainly a lot longer than what a lot of people want to play in a game. However, for me, it just rounds out perfectly in terms of the way and the ebb and the flow of the game, the build-up, that real tension of feeling like what you've got in your head isn't enough to do what you need to do, and having to make trade-offs all the time with each card you play. It really creates that, for me, that experience of that Cold War where it was every decision just felt like a bad decision. I love the game. It is a challenge to get through 10 times. I have played it a number of times already, and I'll probably need to play it a couple more times yet. I'm really excited to share some of the thoughts and insights that I've gained from that. Until then, I'm Dave Adams. Enjoy your breakfast.
Hello, my name's Dan, and this is Cora, and we're here to talk to you about games for children of around 5 and under. And today, we're going to talk about this game, aren't we, Cora? What's this one called?
We never played that game.
Oh, I'm very, very sorry. Okay, we'll talk about this one instead then. What's this one called?
Brandon the Brave.
Brandon the Brave. Let's see how it plays. In Brandon the Brave, or Richard Ritterschlag for all you crazy Germans out there, you're a courageous squire exploring a fantasy kingdom and completing quests. Each player takes it in turns to lay a tile down on the board, making sure that it matches up to any other tiles it's next to. If you match up 2 coloured crosses, then you've found a location of one of your quests and can place it down on the board. The first player to complete all their quests is the winner. Unusually for a kids game, Brandon the Brave also has a solo puzzle variant where you try and place the tiles down in particular shapes or patterns. This game's one of our favourites, and is probably the one that Cora requests most frequently. As well as playing the game itself, we enjoy making up stories and boasting to each other about the various adventures we've had completing our quests. So Cora, do you like Brandon the Brave?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too. What do you like about it?
Because sometimes I think I'm going to win, but you win.
Yeah. You like a lot of our games about winning and things like that, aren't you? We like the art. We like the dragons. We like rescuing the princess and all those kind of things. Good fun game. 2 thumbs up.
Every now and again, I want to share with you a few games that I love that people kind of don't talk about anymore. So here's a segment that absolutely no one asked for. Matthew's favourite games that people kind of don't talk about anymore. Much. That is not catchy. And the first game that I'd like to spread a little bit more love for is At the Gates of Loyang. Whoa, whoa, careful now. Sorry. Whoa, calm down. Shh, easy. That's better. Uwe Rosenberg is kind of a big deal. And my favourite one of his games by far is At the Gates of Loyang. Okay, it's a card drafting, resource management, farming and economic trading. Set in rural China. But, I hear you scream, why should I care, you awful and tedious man? Loyang stands in the shadows in Uwe Rosenberg's games, but it's so elegant and simple to learn, but has so much vast depth and replayability. It's just perfect. The game's a puzzle, but one that's so satisfying to solve every single time. And it has tiny radishes. Huh? Come on. Look at these guys. Little radishes. You. So the next time you get a chance to play one of Mr. Rosenberg's games, please give At the Gates of Loyang a chance. It's not for everybody, but it is one of my absolute favourite games. So what do you think is a great game that kind of doesn't get talked about anymore? Let me know in the comments. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm super excited. It has been a great week. By the way, I've started a new video series where it's called Look Back. And this is where I take a look at reviews that I did a year ago and that I did 5 years ago. I have another one of those going up this week. Those will go up usually every Wednesday. So I'm really excited about talking about those, taking a look back at other things. So check those out. And there's lots of cool things coming your way. And as always, it's great to hear from you guys. Only a couple weeks until Essen, yeah, but gaming to be done. I started playing Pandemic Legacy with my family, so I've already played through it, so I'm letting them make all the decisions. It's fun to watch that game go through again, so that's been fun for me too. But no matter, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.